Bienvenido, Siim. Qué enorme privilegio poder contar siempre con tu empatía, tu cariño a la región de América Latina y el Caribe. Me permito contextualizar a todas y todos que hay una larga trayectoria de cooperación internacional. Si recuerdan ayer, Auras y Fuentes y el equipo de la red, Roberto, gerente de la red GEAL, nos compartió la importante labor que es el compartir experiencias. Rodrigo ahorita nos acaba de mostrar cómo las diferentes redes de investigación han hecho posible que más personas puedan acceder a diferentes diseños de prótesis gracias al código abierto. Entonces, un gran mensaje que hemos escuchado a lo largo de todos estos 4 días del bootcamp es cooperación, 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 trabajo en equipo, colaboración. Y Siim es un gran ejemplo de eso. Quienes hemos tenido la oportunidad de interactuar con él y con los diferentes equipos de diseño de servicios de Estonia, Colombia nos compartió cómo están utilizando X-Road, cómo nosotros empezamos un pilotaje, como Salvador también lo está utilizando, esa colaboración y esa cooperación es algo que enriquece todas las experiencias. Así que Siim es el presidente del Grupo de Trabajo Nacional de Inteligencia Artificial en el gobierno de Estonia, es el secretario de Gobierno Digital en el símil de español o cargos latinoamericanos. Él es responsable de mantener en funcionamiento todo el motor de innovación y gobierno digital de Estonia. Ha sido ampliamente reconocido por la política como uno de los grandes líderes de la región, al igual que Marushka y de muchos de los CIOs que nos han acompañado esta semana. Así que Siim, encantada de tenerte en este bootcamp. Han sido 4 días sumamente intensos, más de 4,000 personas interesadas en aprender sobre innovación digital y qué mejor que tener aquí a un gran referente a nivel global. Muchas gracias y adelante con tu presentación.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all the kind words, Yolanda, and obviously, hi, Marushka. It's we have tried to, meet in Peru quite a few times, and always something has intervened. but glad to join you virtually. I will just share my screen if I can, just 1 second, and we'll be on the road. So I hope you see the screen. Just making sure, yes, no?
Todo bien, Siim.
Okay, awesome. Well, look, it's an evening here. I know it's already exciting day 4 for you in the bootcamp, so I hope you've made lots of inspiration, and I'm glad to share just a bit what we have been doing with digital stuff in Estonia. We mockingly call ourselves even E-Estonia, really for the matter that in our case, doing things digitally has become such an integral daily part of our lives as government officials, as entrepreneurs, as citizens. So literally it's everywhere around us by this point. But just one glimpse of context, as just to make sure everybody knows sort of where Estonia is and so forth, cut the basics down. We are a country in Northeast Europe, so very small, only 1.3 million people, and this is what got us to work on digital tools in the first place. This is why we started, because we are so small. We have to do all we can to basically be somehow very efficient, very effective in how we do things as a government. Otherwise, we have to have taxes high, or we have to be rich in minerals, which we are not. So our way has been exactly, we have to be really smart in how we do stuff. And that's why we started experimenting with digital technology in late 90s and so on. And we found that indeed we are able to do much more as a government. So it became a conscious strategy, an effort to really rely on digital, and exactly to the point where we have reached today. If I jump forward 20 years in where we stand today from digital government point of view, then the snapshot is that almost anything and everything you need to do or you want to do with the government, you can get done yourself online. There is a digital service for that. The only exceptions are 2 things, very important, to get married and divorced. So, and the reason is that these are legally perhaps the most important decisions in your life. They change so much in terms of, your finances and so forth. So we want to make sure you're really doing this voluntarily. And so, that's why you have to see us still. And there's a nice tradition too, right? So, but technologically, even that could happen otherwise from a distance. Anything else, anything you can think about as an interaction between a government and a citizen, as an entrepreneur, you can do digitally. Any applications, any benefits you apply for, any registration you have to do, any reporting you have to do, whatever, all of that happens digitally. It's especially vital for business, for entrepreneurs. So for entrepreneurs, we have even made it mandatory to interact with us online. So if you set up a company, then after that, everything has to happen digitally. All the red tape or bureaucracy of annual reports or your taxes or your statistical reports or whatever like that has to be digital. And we reached even all the way to the point that because it's been so easy to handle digitally, we welcome entrepreneurs from around the world to come and join us and use these services. So we have launched something we call e-residency. Anyone in the world can apply, become virtually Estonian. You get our digital identity. And with that, you can then log in and use the services we have. For example, to set up a company and run it from Peru or wherever you are in the world. It's a European Union company, you do it from a distance. But the point is, it's possible to sort of grow in this space to welcome new users because the services themselves are fully digital and so simple to use. So we provide exactly an easy business environment, and we've seen a lot of company growth, additional economic growth out of this. But it's not just, we also try to look at, okay, how can we really make people's lives better? So that's why, for example, the stuff we've done with digital in health and many other areas, schools and so forth. So the fact that we now have a national digital health record, each time I go to see a doctor, they make digital entry. There's like a new addition to my medical history that the next doctor can access. This might save my life at some point, if I have to be treated in an emergency, or it saves me time because we have now less queues. Based on that, we have managed to build up remote telemedicine, for example, and now we're moving to personalized medicine based on combining genomic and health data to treat and diagnose me better. So the point being that it's not just the interactions that are, bureaucracy, but we try to digitize also the more deeper meaning, more impactful government services like that. And we've also tried to digitize things that people want to do, not just the things that they have to do as bureaucracy. So things like voting. So we offer a chance to vote online from a distance. You can be anywhere in the world, traveling, working, whatever. If you have a right to vote in Estonia, you can do that from a distance. Again, using the digital identity, you can cast your say for parliament, for municipality, whatever. We have about half of the votes that come in online like that. And so we managed to basically make it more accessible for you to stay part of the democracy and still stay part of Estonia like that, especially because everybody's busier and the picture is no accident. It can be really lousy weather at voting time in Estonia. So, people don't want to go to stand in a line and participate. It's easier to do it from an office, from an airport, from your armchair in your home. So making things digital, available in digital channel has made them much more accessible and in that sense used. And it's not just theory, if I sum up with. So we started with the hope of being more efficient. We see from domain to domain, sector to sector, how we reap those benefits, how indeed we are able to deliver more with the same taxes or money we collect. Whether it's safer streets because police, can do their job better, it's smaller queues in hospitals, more taxes we collect, whatever category you look at, we've seen the dividend of being digital. What have been some of the things we have learned along the way, and what we see has been the pillars to our journey, or success factors, if you wish? I would stop on a few things. Obviously, there's more, but the most fundamental things are first that relying on platform approach has made things much easier. For platforms, I mean, building blocks or shared solutions that all different government agencies and services reuse. So platform is digital identity, is a platform. So in Estonia, we started very early on by building out a national digital identity, state issues, basically key to access services online. For us, it's the ID card initially. Now there's also a mobile ID version and so on. So basically having a uniform ID means that all the services that different agencies want to provide or need to provide they need some sort of authentication, some way to trust the user as they come to use the service, whether it's web app or whatever. So if everybody needs it, and we always strapped for resource, or money, so why don't we solve this for once? That was the thinking. And so that's why we built it as a platform that everybody now can build their service on top and do it much faster and cheaper. Also, we, as Identity, we saw it's a platform for the whole economy to go digital, not just government. So, you have my movie theater. If I go to, when movies open again after COVID, so if I want to go to see a movie, I can log in to the online sales of the movie theater, same ID, or to my bank, or to my to pay my utilities bill. So it's an infrastructure that has enabled the whole economy more widely to go digital with their service and channels. Or another platform, which is becoming more popular across Latin America as well, all the way from Mexico down and to El Salvador, Colombia, Argentina. There's a number of places playing or using it. X-Road is the platform for secure data exchange. It's a common way to exchange data, push or pull data between government systems. And this is really serves the purpose that if you want to provide an integrated, seamless service that everything is packed into one or same interactions for people, you need to somehow exchange data in the backend. So we have again a uniform way for that, as opposed to building new APIs or new set of interoperability each time. That once you're linked, so to speak, to X-Road, or once you configure your system to X-Road, then you're immediately interoperable with all the rest of the network, meaning the whole rest of government, for example. So again, platform makes this sort of seamless service design much faster and better, and you just focus on building your stuff on top. So platforms is what we believe in, and we are on a constantly looking at what things we can solve as platforms again and again. And that's a lot what government CIO office, my office, does. Secondly, oftentimes in countries, people talk about the need to change laws to remove obstacles to digitalization. We see that changing laws can also give us a kick in the butt to force us to go more digital. So for a few examples, with digital identity, I can also sign things in a legally valid way. How is it possible? Well, because we brought in a law that said if a document is signed with the national digital ID, government agencies have to accept this. They cannot say no to this receiving this document. It has to be equal to the handwritten paper version. So it pushed agencies to start relying on digital more. Or another example of the law is the rule of once only that we brought in, which says that if some part of government knows something about me, the rest of government should not ask again. If I go to the next office, even virtually, then they have to exchange data in the backend, which means these interactions become smaller, faster, easier for me to handle. They become more seamless. We force them to redesign, to reuse data, and that has greatly changed the citizen experience. So my point being, we think about laws exactly to push us to go stronger and deeper in the digital, not just remove the obstacles in a way. A third thing, which we could have a whole new session about, is that obviously there are risks involved in digital. So for privacy, for cybersecurity, but risks are things we can manage. So our approach has always been that we have to be conscious that the risks are there. We have to manage them good, all the way from how we design systems, how we run them, the procedures, to basically having very good defenses. So we have invested quite a bit into our cyber defense capacity, and we do international collaboration on this. We train a lot. This is all for the purpose because this allows us, enables us to rely on digital so much. The risks we can manage if we put our mind to this, if we focus and work on this. So that's why cybersecurity, for example, is the other side of the coin of a digital portfolio. In my own country case, for example, as a government CIO, I am in charge of bringing my country forward in digitalization, but I'm also the chief cybersecurity officer. So we combine these roles exactly because they have to be part of the same story in a way. And the sort of last of lesson learned is that obviously, I think it's no news to many folks here, or all the folks here. Ultimately, the whole thing we're talking about here is not a technology game. It's a leadership and a change game. So that's why it's called digital transformation, right? So what we're doing here is that we are changing how government works, how government processes are designed. Yes, we do it with technology, we do it with data and so on, but fundamentally, so a success, for example, of a digital project is not about technological failure or success. It's about how do we manage that change. And it's the classics, the ABC of change management that has to be in place and the leadership for that. So in a way, digitization is a lot of like management problem, and it helps if leadership is behind it, obviously. Our luck in Estonia has been that we have had both political and administrative leadership very eager to do more with digital, to also eager to take risks. If we started with online voting, it was not tried in the world, and many people said it cannot be done securely. Or if we started with e-residency, again, it was a novel thing for the world. Our approach was to say, hey, why don't we try this out? Let's see how to make it work. If we don't manage to make it work, well, we can always quit and start something new. But this willingness to experiment and the experimentation approach has led us a lot and been helpful. I will end just saying a few words that look, we don't think we are anywhere near ready with our digital government. There's so much more to do. Technology moves ahead, our own ideas. Constantly we come to new stuff. Some of the things we are working on, just I can very briefly highlight. First of all, we are working on to get rid of services. So even if we have made them available online, all of them, then we are now working to make them more or less invisible, happen automatically in the back end and proactively for people as much as we can. So if my child is born, and this is an example we have been building out and we are along the way. If my child is born, I can, yes, do all the 4 or 5 things I need to do online from the hospital. But why do I need to do them in the first place? I can just, instead, the government can email you, say, hey, thanks for the new citizen, because we actually know that the baby was born to you because hospital has given government that data. They have to make this entry. So as opposed to you waiting for you to come to us, we can approach you and then offer you the benefits and ask for the name and come to you with a service. In one interaction, whatever happens in your life, you should get your stuff done and not think about where do I find this service now. So secondly, and that's the invisible stuff. So services should happen invisibly for you, come to you when you need them, as opposed to the other way around. And we don't need big data and sort of fancy data science for that. It's mostly about designing service and the right triggers to then approach you, as opposed to waiting for you to approach us as a government. Second thing, we are very big and keen on artificial intelligence. So if I just have to sum up one technology, that's what we're most working on, because again, it makes us more efficient again. So it allows us to take our efficiency attempt to the next level. We have about close to 100 cases in works now, different AI solutions in our government, and we see that exactly we get so much more from it. Whether it's that we don't have to have people typing up, meeting notes in courts, or we are able to use satellite images to see if subsidies in agriculture are properly used. There's lots of cases where we are more effective in how we do things. But fundamentally, and that's my last point, we see that with AI, we can radically make it easy for people to interact with government. And that's the longer term vision we're building out. We envision that the interface with the government to get your things done in the near future will not be the app, it will not be the web. It's through your voice, through the virtual assistant, in your phone, in your car, in your fridge, whatever. The Siris, the Google Assistants, these will be the interfaces. So we are building to make sure that all of our government information would be accessible for you through those interfaces, through those assistants, and all of our government services, the interactions you could use through them as well. So this is quite a lot of technological groundbreaking work we're doing on that front, working with some of the global giants as well on this. And exactly the idea is that you could just as we speak here, you can basically exactly get your things done just by having a say with your phone, and that's it. So that should radically make it easier to even the elderly to access services. It makes it easier to get things done and again, use the proactivity in the back end. I have to stop here because of time. Thanks really for listening in. And if some of the things we do or have done can be of help to you in Peru, always ask. Gracias.
Sí, espectacular lo que nos comentas, porque en realidad lo que tú dices es la clave de todo lo que hemos venido comentando, ponerse al servicio de la ciudadanía. Muchas preguntas en el chat y quisiera resumirlas en gobernanza, Siim. El respaldo político es clave. ¿Cómo se han organizado ustedes para estructurar esta gobernanza y lograr esta escala?
So politically, especially, right? Well, two things there.
Sí.
So initially, I think it took a few leaders, political leaders with vision and like I said, willingness to try things out. Their braveness was to listen to engineers and to listen to experts who said, hey, but this could be done in a different way. Hey, we could have a national identity. Why don't we try this out? And so the readiness was exactly to say, hey, let's try this. We don't know if it will work, but let's try to make it happen. Let's just experiment, let's play with this. And then obviously, you scale if it works. So it's a lot of like a very startup approach in that sense, like that. Obviously, if we jump to today, it's a different political story. Our prime ministers, parliamentarians, they have felt the benefits of digitalization in their last 20 years. Their life is better because of it. They know this. So it's very hard for them to say, but hey, we should not be digital now, right? So we don't go back in that sense. But obviously, we have our own debates in terms of how fast do we go ahead. And depending on a political willingness and party, it differs. But it's not about to be digital or not. It's about, how ambitious to be. But yeah, fundamentally, we use the window of opportunity of a few brave, visionary, willing leaders.
Excelente, Siim. También siguiendo mucho con esta lógica que nos has compartido de que el gobierno digital nunca termina su trabajo porque siempre van nuevas tecnologías. Hay varias preguntas, por ejemplo, esta de Delfor, que también es muy similar a otras. Y la duda que tienen es ¿cuánto tiempo le tomó al gobierno implementar infraestructura como X-Road? ¿Quiénes participaron en el diseño de X-Road y cómo alcanzaron esta escala de hablar del 100% de relación gobierno-ciudadano a través de Internet?
Well, obviously, it's easy to talk about 20 years in 10 minutes, right? So I think we are still doing stuff along these fronts, exactly. For us, it was about first 10-15 years of journey to really get to some of the get everything online and get everything sort of working like that. But that's also because we were inventing a lot of stuff on the go. Today, if you're somewhere at the beginning of a journey, for example, right? So you've taken first steps and you're in the middle of it. You can rely on so much more than we could. You can use our solutions, or you can use, there's so much more solutions and practices, technology, policy lessons around that you can just, use to accelerate your journey. So my point being, there's basically more to rely on. And what we see now, let's take X-Road. X-Road, as it's being implemented in different countries, including Latin America, the journey is 2-3 times faster because of that, because there's so much more you can use as a building block. Stuff that's open source, stuff that's provided by vendors and so on, and you get ahead faster if you have the change management momentum. So the fundamental determinant of the speed is my last point of my presentation. It's not technology that matters. There's more tech today than we had. It's how fast you can make the change happen. And that's where governments differ. It's the governance of this, it's the machinery of the government, how easy it is to make decisions, how well you can align resources, how strong of a team you have. Obviously, you have an awesome team with Marushka, but exactly, all these things have to line up very well. But look, you know this. You've been doing a great job in Peru anyway.
Muchas gracias, Siim. En realidad, resumir todas las preguntas, una quiero llevarme súper importante es, ¿cómo es que llegaron a los ciudadanos? O sea, ¿cómo es que ese ciudadano aprovechó estas tecnologías que ustedes pusieron a su disposición? ¿Cuál es la clave para llegar a ellos rápidamente?
Well, the key is probably, again, no news to many of you. I mean, we have to solve problems that they actually have. So if we give them value, if we make their life easier with the stuff we do, you know, they're happy to take it up, even if it is clumsy at first. Look, I mean, mind you, we have been in Estonia, we started building things technologically beautifully, but you know, our user experience design was not the best for a long time. So it's been a learning journey for us in that sense. Why people still use it? Because you know, the alternative was so much worse. The alternative of, you know, going to an office, spending time to wait in a line, especially with our weather. Hey, you know, it's not that good. So you know, you rather do it exactly from your office, from your home. So my point is that if we give them value and we save them time, we save them money if you do things digitally, they're happy to use it. And of course, at the same time, the other side of the coin has to be there, which I explained. So, you know, obviously we have to have that trust, and we, you know, have to build a proper cyber defense and everything to keep that trust. But yeah, if trust is there, safeguards are there, and value is provided, they will come to use the services. And so I'm often asked, I mean, this is not the case in Peru anymore, but I'm often asked, okay, where do you start? What are the biggest pains in people's lives? What gives them the biggest headache in terms of bureaucracy and getting things done? If you solve that, they come. And they'll tell the neighbor.
Totalmente de acuerdo. Y justo creo que tocas un tema que también se ha visto bastante en las conversaciones, y es cómo asegurar que este entorno digital de interactuar 100% en línea y además estar en constante innovación y experimentación, como lo que nos compartiste, de estar ya testeando el uso de los asistentes virtuales, con el tema de la seguridad digital. ¿Cómo abordar el que muchas personas, por miedo a que vaya a haber un tipo de fraude, no quieran usar el canal digital? ¿Cómo han mantenido ese balance de una alta apropiación del canal digital como canal principal con una buena práctica de seguridad digital?
Well, first of all, even before we started going digital, we had in place very strong data protection framework, and we still do. As a member of the European Union, it's the famous GDPR stuff, right? So we were basically GDPR level even before that, legally and procedurally and so forth. So I mean, there has to be proper, exactly, safeguards in place that data is kept private, but you know, the government doesn't misuse it. But secondly, our approach has been transparency, being, you know, maximum transparent in terms of how we use your data and, you know, what happens with your data and services. So for example, that's why in Estonia you can log in and see which doctor has access to your medical record, or which government official looks at your files elsewhere. If you think they had no business, that's when data protection framework kicks in. You can make a claim. We've had people fined, laid off, and so forth very publicly because of that. But fundamentally, you have oversight, and so we present back to you the log, what happens to your stuff. And these days we even build it out this way that you can control and you can share further. So not only can you see what access, but for example, you can give the next app maker access to your data as well. It's a difference. You can consent to sharing of data. So the point being that we are transparent, and we are very transparent when something goes wrong, when incidents happen, when you know, some privacy problem has occurred. We immediately tell once we can. And that's also for the reasons to ensure that, you know, trust is there. You know, things will happen, is what we keep telling our people, but we'll try our best that they don't. And secondly, we'll tell you, and we are open if it does.
Sí, sabemos que estás ahí con el tiempo que nos has brindado hoy. De todo corazón te agradecemos el hecho de haber hecho un espacio en tu agenda Siim para compartir con nosotros desde Perú, con mucho cariño, y te seguimos y te admiramos, igual que con Yolanda, Elizabeth, José y toda la región, Roberto, Aura. Muchísimas gracias, Siim. Y bueno, tu última palabra para, como te digo, las más de 1.400 personas apenas se enteraban que estaba Siim Sikkut, comenzaron inmediatamente a conectarse más rápido. Tu último mensaje, y con eso te agradecemos un montón.
No, thank you so much, and look, good luck with all your digital efforts in Peru. I think my last words always are simple. There's a very simple truth in the end to how to make digital. Just do it.
Totalmente de acuerdo.
Sí, muchísimas gracias. Éxitos y de
Muchas
verdad,
gracias.
siempre en contacto. Muchas gracias. Hasta luego.
Bicentenario del Perú, 2021. Gobierno del Perú.